Welcome to Native Calgarian and Mossy for listening. I'm your host, Michelle Robinson, speaking to you in Mohkinstsis in the Blackfoot Confederacy, home of the Niitsitapi, Tsuut'ina Dene, and the Yiharhi Nakota. I talk about history, current news, unheard news, book clubs, with special guests to give local or national issues a voice through an urban Satu Dene lens. My life's work will be to honor the voices of my ancestors and next generation with humor, love, and truth. Reconciliation is work, not performance. May we honor all Indigenous voices with that courage. Today is January 21st, 2025. Welcome to Native Calgarian. If you enjoy hearing Indigenous content by this Satu Dene woman, my Patreon account is Native Calgarian, where you can go pledge and support. Thank you, previous donors, for showing your support. For those who cannot afford to give, I'd love to hear from you at nativeyyc@gmail.com, where you can send in your comments or questions. Giving a review helps, whatever medium you're listening from. I have a YouTube channel that you can go and subscribe. Go to nativecalgarian.com for the latest podcasts and pin posts on social media. And always remember to share the things you've learned on to your network. Oki, naganago, mekoche chestokom aki, or Nara Dara de Kots Nagotine Siku Saradi. My name is Michelle Robinson. I use they, them pronouns, and my spirit name is Red Thunder Woman. My Dene lineage roots me in the Great Bear Lake tribe in Treaty 11 in Delaney. I'm a native to Turtle Island, and my Dene nation is uninvited to this area of Clincho Tine Indahe in Satu Dene, meaning Many Big Dog Town, named after the Calgary Stampede. I was born in Calgary or in Blackfoot, Mohkinstsis, as Michelle Elliott, another English name that has afforded me privilege in an English colonial world. Acknowledging proximity to whiteness is important because the darker the skin, the more racism a person experiences in colonial spaces. My late great-grandfather is Milo Biwo from Delaney. His daughter, Alice, is my now late great-granny. My mother and I are Northern Slavey Dene or Satu Dene, but my Indian Act and Post status card by the Canadian government says Yellowknives Dene. Through my father, I am a daughter of the Mayflower and daughter of the American Revolution. Having a Canadian Indian Act and Post status card is a colonial construct by Canadian policies meant to divide Indigenous peoples' inherent rights. Indigenous Two-Spirit, or the 2S LGBTQ community, and Indigenous women are at the bottom of the Canadian socioeconomic ladder because of colonial trauma, imposed poverty, racism, gendered violence, and land theft. I am not a social worker nor an elder, nor do I speak on behalf of all Indigenous, but I can share my journey as a Dene mom navigating this colonial, misogynistic, racist world in 2024. I think of all of this today, and I hope we honor the many Indigenous lives lost for this so-called country named Canada. I hope you see your role in the importance of stopping harm, and as a citizen, see your role in reconciliation and as a treaty partner. Land Back is a movement that could save the planet from climate change created by colonialism, but it would be a part of a treaty partnership, meaningful reconciliation, and honoring global initiatives like the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. As a former geomatics drafter, be happy to teach you more, but you'd have to pay me, so go to nativecalgarian.com for more. Well, I can't welcome you enough here. I'm so grateful to have you. I'm so happy you're running to be the Prime Minister of Canada. Would you like to introduce yourself in your way?
Yes, Guillaume Awaleltio, Delavizinina, Jaime Battiste, Waldasi de Guewono, Waldasi Gischixrio, Gishka, Tanelege, Mauespide, Lugohan, Delavizinji, Canada. How's it going, everyone? I'm Jaime Battiste. I'm a Mi'kmaq from the Eskasoni Mi'kmaq community. I'm a Burlodek band member, which is about an hour away from here, but I've lived my whole life in the Mi'kmaq Reserve of Eskasoni in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia. It's about close to 5,000 people in our community, and I've been the member of Parliament for Sydney, Victoria, since 2019, and was re-elected in 2021. And so, yes, I've decided to take on the next step of my political journey and run for the Liberal leadership. And so, in essence, running as the first ever Indigenous candidate for the position of Prime Minister.
Yes, I'm super excited. And it feels like some of the work that the Indigenous Peoples Commission and the Liberal Party of Canada is slightly validated to hear that. So I feel like over the moon to have you to host you and that you're in this position at this moment. So for me, I asked my followers if they had questions for you. So I definitely want to give you some time to introduce yourself to the world, and let them know what your platform is and why you're running, etc. And then, yeah, if we have some time for some questions, I'll ask you some more.
Okay, well, I guess I'll give the people my quick elevator pitch. I know that they probably won't have too much time, but listen, I've been concerned as a member of the Liberal Party that with everything that's going on, that we're taking steps backwards on reconciliation. When I heard that we were taking the 48 billion that we had offered for the child welfare uh, class action negotiation off the table, it put me in a real difficult spot where I could spend the next 6 weeks apologizing, or I could spend the next 6 weeks advocating and fighting to ensure that this was back on the table. I'm very concerned about what's happening with the environment in terms of what's going on with President Trump and immediately moving outside of the Paris climate targets. You know, I come from Cape Breton. We've had floods, we have fires, we've had Hurricane Fiona that knocked out power for 11 days. We've had roads wash away. Just last year, we had 160 centimeters of snowfall. We've seen quite a bit of devastation and damage from these weather-related climate events.
And you live right on reserve, so that's part of it too. And I think, we've stressed it a million times, but we'll stress it one more time today, just to advocate. Like at the end of the day, it is Indigenous communities that feel it first. The most marginalized communities feel it first. So, and you're exactly describing that.
Yes, and so that's one of the reasons why I said that I wanted to run, and that's one of the reasons why I feel like uh, I need to be a voice for the Indigenous people. I need to be a voice for the Atlantic. I need to be a voice for the environment. I need to be a voice for the youth. And I didn't see that in the race. And I really wanted to get people excited. And I was really urged to do this by a lot of Indigenous leaders and Atlantic leaders, and said, this is something that you should take on. You have the ability to do this. And, I told people I was reluctant at first because of the amount of money and the amount of time I would have to raise, and the amount of time I would have to dedicate to this. But people kept telling me, if you don't try, you'll never know. And I thought to myself, and I talked to leaders from across the country, and one of them, I did get a chance to speak to Premier Wab Kinew. And when I was talking to him, I said, you know, pre- before there was a Premier Wab Kinew, there had to be an Elijah Harper. Before there was a President Barack Obama, there had to be a Jesse Jackson. And so there always has to be that first person willing to step up and take those steps, even if they know what they're doing really is paving the way for future generations. And I said, if I didn't believe in myself and I didn't believe in what I was trying to do here, how could I ask Indigenous youth to believe in themselves? And so I took this on, and with the belief that I'll work as hard as I can, and work as long as I can, and keep fighting until they either kick me out of the race or I don't have the ability to go on anymore. And so this is what I'm doing, and that's really what's driving me in this discussion.
As a urban native, listening and watching, I'm grateful that you're at this table for no other reason than now we can hold everyone who's at that table to account on the very things that they platformed for the last 10 years on.
Mhm.
So I'm grateful to hear everything you just said. I have a friend named Kat who asked, as Prime Minister, what would be the first thing you did? So you win the leadership and you're Prime Minister. Now what?
Well, I would have to form a cabinet, but one of the things I would do is I would be reaching out to some of the other parties like the NDP and the Bloc, and saying there's really important legislation that we should consider passing before going to an election. We have, the First Nations clean water legislation. I've worked very hard to try to get to collaboration in our committee on that. I tried to seek unanimous consent to send it to Senate for December. The Conservatives stopped that. And so I would be trying to find a willing partner, not only to champion that, but also the Online Harms Act, to protect our children in Canada. The biggest thing financially I would be doing, there's two things. Is first of all, I put that $48 billion back on the table and asks the chiefs to consider voting on it one more time and asking the NDP to allow that vote to occur before we call an election, so that we can get that money to our communities, get that money to the children. And I would have a First Ministers meeting with the premiers on the price on pollution now, and the environment, because while I've had conversations with them, and I know that there's a lot of pressure out there to get rid of the carbon tax. I'm not opposed to getting rid of it, but I want to ensure. But what needs to happen is, first of all, let's pause the increase, because we don't want to continue to burden Canadians unnecessarily. But I do feel that there has to be a realistic conversation about, okay, if this isn't the way to do it, how do we do this to give our future generations a livable planet? And if we're going to be talking about environment, we also have to talk about the environmental damages being created by climate related extreme weather events. The North is already feeling it in terms of rivers not even being able to get high enough to send barges on for goods to get across them. You're having these fires and floods from coastal communities in British Columbia to Cape Breton, and seeing all of this immense damage. Right now, the federal government's picking up 90% of that, of the damage that's created, and the provinces are picking up 10%. And so if the provinces want to continue to pollute without a price, it's costing us down the line and down the future. And so we have to have a realistic conversation, is if you guys want to continue that price on pollution, we have to have a serious conversation of how much more you're willing to take on in terms of these weather-related disasters across Canada, not just in your provinces, because there are some provinces that are probably going to be safer than others. But what do we do for those people in the Northwest Territories that don't have the ability to provide for themselves? So because of the barges not being able to go across the rivers, everything has to be flown in. So all across Canada, we're seeing these events. We need to have a serious conversation about how we fund them. So those are the things I would be doing.
I have a good friend who I happen to know is a liberal, and they asked the question, how do we know, or how do we hold the provinces accountable to reconciliation and upholding treaty and constitutional rights? And they went on to say, if he's not sure, tell him the answer is term and conditions attached to transfer payments. But I'll let you kind of frame that in your way about how you feel about treaty and constitutional rights and the provinces already not really being accountable about reconciliation. It kind of ties into what you were talking about already on climate change.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to throw all of the. I would hate to paint all of the premiers with the same brush, but I think there are premiers that are doing really good things. I mean, the BC has been a champion on the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. No one will ever be able to tell me that Premier Canoe isn't trying his best to uphold and honor Indigenous rights. Nova Scotia has taken some really good steps around treaty education in terms of teaching that in the classrooms.
That's
but
great.
In terms of really trying to you have to be collaborative. As a prime minister, what the Supreme Court has said is that they expect cooperative federalism. And so you can't infringe on provincial jurisdiction as a federal government unless it's a national emergency. And that's what they decided in the price on carbon pricing case. It said we could do this because climate crisis is an imminent threat, and that the provinces weren't acting enough. And so the federal backstop came in place, and that was deemed constitutional because it was a national emergency. Because they said climate change is real.
Mhm.
Now, whether Aboriginal treaty rights would be significant enough for you to, as a federal government, go outside of your jurisdiction, that's something that is yet to be determined. And my father's a constitutional lawyer. He's been working on some of the major cases for the Mi'kmaq since the 80s. And this is some of the things that being the son of a professor and a scholar in constitutional and indigenous law has helped me in the role I've had as a professor myself, as a treaty education lead, but also with what I'm doing now as a parliamentary secretary for Crown Indigenous Relations. So it's a big topic. I can't say that there's a real silver bullet for that answer, but I have always believed in collaboration and will continue to.
Yeah. Mandy Miller asked what your plan for truth and reconciliation was, which you kind of answered, but also how you'll deal with Daniel Smith and the UCP, because right now we're seeing them as this like loose potato.
Yeah, and you know what? I've met Daniel Smith at the last Calgary, um, Calgary. What is it called? The big event in Calgary.
Was it the
I
municipalities
No,
meeting?
it was it's the Stampede, the Stampede. I've done twice, 2 years in a row. I did the announcement for the funding that we've provided to them, and so I got a chance to meet her and have a conversation with her. But I think that the the overall the the overall, how do you handle premiers is really with respect, and you try to do it as collaboratively as possible. And all you can do is show them what other provinces are doing on the Truth and Reconciliation calls to action. As a federal government, we passed legislation to have a um, national independent committee that has oversight over the Truth and Reconciliation calls to action. And so some of them are federal jurisdiction, some of them are provincial jurisdiction, some of them calls are on bar associations to do things. But overall, there are a lot of shared responsibilities there that this committee will have the oversight over for years to come. And so I think that's an important tool that we'll continue to see. And I think that why we have a National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. It gives us a time to reflect on what steps we're taking as a country, as a province. And we all know that we have a role to play on that. And I think that's one of the important pieces of legislation that we used moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's wonderful. Um, so I'll just say this just because Daniel Smith is my premier and I'm obviously recording this in Alberta. I wish you all the best of luck trying to negotiate with this person. I find she says denialism and brings in people who believe in that. So, for me, I definitely see her as a person that really isn't taking reconciliation seriously, and in fact, doing everything in her power to hamper it, I should say. What a faux pas. Sorry about that. I had another friend here who asked about the opioid crisis, housing crisis, and justice reform. What are your thoughts on those are three pretty big topics to kind of throw at you, but I know they are all interconnected.
Well, I think that's I'm building my policy pieces one step at a time. I wouldn't want to commit to something that I haven't fully talk to my team about. We've got some values that we're based on, but I can say this, that my values are always associated with trying to give people dignity and all Canadians to enjoy the same quality of life. This is something that I'm committed to, and this is why I believe in human rights, and I believe in reconciliation, and I believe in, there are programs that we've committed to as a government that we've only started to see the progress now with affordable childcare, with the childcare benefit, dental care, pharmacare. These are important things for seniors, but these are also important things for Canadians who are not quite in that middle class yet. And so I think these are the things that people need to know. Without these important things moving forward, conservative government would come in with a lot of cuts. And so we really have to be careful and really have to be mobilized in this next election, because all of these steps that we've taken as a government and as a country, we may be in jeopardy of losing if if a conservative government is elected, and having Pierre Poilievre in there is really a scary thought. And I think I have time for one more question because I have people calling me right now. Just
I, yeah, I so apologize about that. So I have one more person who said that they want to know more about minority groups, of course, the Indigenous community, but also disability. And they didn't say to us LGBTQ, but the
Mhm.
LGBTQ and those who immigrated here.
I'm sorry, what's the question?
What your plans are to be more inclusive Canada
Well,
for all of those
I think it's the
communities.
same answer as the last one. I don't have a full policy platform developed. I'm going to be working with my team to put something together. But right now, I can just only say that I stand for the quality of life for all Canadians. I stand for diversity. I try to be an ally for all. And
Yeah.
but I do have there's a lot to running this country, and I'll take some of the steps I heard from Mark Carney, who did his his press conference earlier this week. He said, one step at a time. There's the announcement, but we have these important hurdles that we have to, not hurdles, uh, checkpoints or things that we have to do as a party. What I really have to do now is get people excited. And
Yeah.
if people aren't getting excited about this campaign, if people aren't donating, people aren't signing up, we really need Liberals across the Canada to sign up, not only for my party, my campaign team, but also for the Liberal Party to have a voice. Because anyone over the age of 14 can be choosing who the next prime minister is. So they have an opportunity. What I'd like to say in my kind of concluding thoughts, we need people to get excited about this. And if they're not excited about my leadership, get excited because one of these people who wins this is going to be your next prime minister. And
Mhm.
so the stakes are high, and it's an important thing. And I think that the more people get excited and involved, the more people who are signing up from all across the country, the better it's going to be for the ideas, the better it's going to be for democracy, the better it's going to be for our country. And I hope that people would consider signing up. My website is my name, Jaimey Battiste, Battiste.com. You can look at there more full of what of my accomplishments, my CV, what my thoughts are, but also how you can take action and either register or donate. Anything is appreciated, and just need to get the word out there that we've got important decisions to make over the next 2 months. So,
Do we
with that,
ever?
thank you, Michelle, for your
Uh,
time and hosting
Honored.
me when I was in Calgary, and I really appreciate all of that and your time and your efforts. And thank you for having me.
Honored to have you here. Thank you so much. Thank you again for running for Prime Minister, and I can't wait to see what goes on. And this will be up right away. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Take care. What an honor to host him for a moment. I know I wish we had more time too, but he is a very busy man now. So I consider it very much a privilege to have been able to chat with him at all. I wanted to obviously promote the book club, Indigenous Book Club. It's the second Monday of each month. And a special shout out for November's Arc of the Medicine Line by Tony Reeves, which I think is very important considering the climate we're now in with the person south of the border now running it. Reconciliation Action Group is a group that has done immense amount of work in order to try to advocate for reconciliation as settlers in the city of Calgary. And of course, understanding racism. They have fundraised a ton of money now. Well, tons to us, but not enough for Stop the Stack YYC. So if you can donate to Stop the Stack YYC directly, please do. But I would love to see settlers join the Reconciliation Action Group and work on their anti racism policies and initiatives. And I am grateful for all that they do, including helping me move a high school friend of mine and their family as well. There's so many wonderful people trying to do the good work. And I'd love to see more people who actually know the 94 calls to action, the 231 calls to justice, to come and join us and do that good work too. Mossy Cho to my ancestors, my granny and my mom, of what strength looks like through your examples. I want to thank my dad for teaching me to be strong and blunt. Maybe the confidence of a white male. As if. My stepmom for showing me what a proud culture is through her Austrian family. And because of her, I'm a second generation Calgarian. I want to thank my husband, Darcy, for producing and editing this show, on top of being my husband, my childhood friend, the father of our child, and support down my journey of the Red Road. He has witnessed decades of racism and sexism, and now we're both unpacking ableism. To our child, we are blessed to learn from you daily and honored you chose us. You give me daily accountability to be a better and stronger person. I hope that my family will be proud in the future of us trying to discuss these present day issues. I honor the Blackfoot as the elders and members have been so kind to me on my Red Road journey as I'm on their land. Elder Red Crane taught me how to pronounce my spirit name in Blackfoot, and Leonard Kenny taught me how to pronounce it in Satu Dene. My humblest apologies to the elders and language keepers as I try to learn proper pronunciation. My Patreon account is Native Calgarian, where you can pledge and support. Thank you, previous donors, for showing your support. If you value listening or watching and can afford to give, thank you. For those who cannot afford to give, I'd love to hear from you at nativeyyc@gmail.com, where you can send in your comments or questions. I also have a YouTube channel that you can go and subscribe. Go to nativecalgarian.com for the latest podcasts and pin posts on social media. And I want to start doing more positive things like called like the touch grass moment, hug a tree moment. So if you have a good story to tell me, please do. Please send them in. I haven't heard anybody send one in yet, but because I do talk a lot about dark things, I like to obviously share positive things. And for folks who follow me on TikTok, for example, I share all of the animal stuff all the time for this reason because, that stuff makes me happy. And I hope it gives you all the dopamine hit you're looking for online as well. Um, so I just wanted to talk about some positive things that I had seen here recently with the leadership debate is just seeing, really just a mutual respect for each other, but also the country, and seeing the crisis that's coming up now south of the border, and knowing how important this work is more than ever, and to try to create that safer space for 2S LGBTQ. So I did see that a Young Two Spirit does have an event after our Missing and Murdered March that happens every Valentine's Day here. So if you're interested in that, let me know. I did share it on my Facebook as well. And yeah, I hope you come and join the Two Spirit community for drag shows and fun. I want to give side eye to those Calgary rabbits. You're lucky I'm not tradish. My beautiful cousin always responds, or you'd be in my dish. Thanks, folks, for listening.